A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to tonight's live show on IMAM HUSSEIN TV. The live show topic tonight is Sermon of Sermons, Zainab in Shaam. A few days back, on the 15th of Rajab, marked the wafat, as it were, of this great lady. This great lady achieved great ranks and heights, and also she combined her strength, valor from her father and the holy household of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. But perhaps one of her points of her strengths and achievements was journeying from Karbala to Kufa and then to Shaam. But what exactly was this sermon? She actually came into Shaam in front of the whole empire at that time, a tyrannical empire, and she executed this great sermon. With me tonight we have once again the learned professor, a doctor and a modern master of history. Welcome with me tonight, Dr. Ammar Nakshwani. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Dr. Ammar, it's a privilege to have you once again on this live show.
Thank you very much.
The Sermon of Sermons. Indeed, a profound form of rhetoric, the highest form of literature, executed in a style that was so powerful that ripped apart this empire. So with that in mind, Zainab, this sermon that I want to actually come on to, do you actually remember the first time you've memorized this sermon? Many have heard you actually talk about this sermon verbatim on Arba'een Day. What exactly can you shed light on this sermon?
Assalamu alaikum, first and foremost to all the viewers. It's a difficult period, the period of Rajab, the month of Rajab, because on the one hand we had the wilad of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and then all of a sudden a couple of days later you have the wafat of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. And it's wonderful that we're able to discuss the sermon of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. I remember memorizing the sermon in my mid-20s, and it wasn't the easiest sermon to memorize, be it in Arabic or in English.
Right.
Because you have to be extremely precise in remembering the wording, because the words are so carefully used.
Okay.
And it's not a short sermon. It's quite a lengthy sermon. Not necessarily as long as her mother's sermon, known as the Fadakiyya. However, it's still a lengthy sermon. But it was a huge honor once I was able to memorize that sermon, and to be able to recite it on Arba'een Day in Karbala every year is a wonderful blessing in my life. And I do recommend all the viewers out there that if you want to know what Zainab really is, then study this profound sermon. I once in a lecture called it a miraculous sermon. Because when a person looks at the context of what's happening at the time, for a lady to not just speak, but to be composed, to maintain her discipline, self-respect and eloquence, having seen what she's seen, is something that I'll never be able to describe.
Yeah.
And that's why when we're going to go through it tonight,
Inshallah,
you're going to realize that there's a wonderful combination of attributes which all come together on that difficult day in Shaam.
You mentioned about the context, as it were, of the sermon. But now let's really go to the wisdom behind the sermon, almost as it were, to break it down, what's in there, the secret, as it were, to the content of the sermon. A dua or a ziyarat from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. What exactly is this sermon about?
Well, any dua from the Ahlul Bayt, any ziyarah from the Ahlul Bayt, or any khutbah, a sermon from the Ahlul Bayt, is not just to be taken for that particular incident, but rather it's as if Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam want the theology as well as the ethics, spirituality and laws of the religion to all make their ways within either a sermon or a dua or a ziyarah. So if you look at, for example, Ziyarat al-Jami' al-Kabira
Yes.
of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, it's not just a ziyarah. Rather, usul al-din is within that ziyarah.
Yes.
If you look at many of the supplications of As-Sahiba Sajjadiyya, they're not just supplications. Usul al-din are within those supplications of As-Sahiba Sajjadiyya. If you read between the lines, you'll find tawheed, monotheism. You'll find prophethood. You'll find a discussion of God's justice. You'll find a discussion of the role of the imams of Ahlul Bayt. And you'll find a discussion of resurrection.
Yes.
Likewise, you'll find discussions about salah and Sawm, Hajj, Zakat, Khums, Jihad, Amr bil Ma'ruf, and Nahi anil Munkar, Tawalla, Tabarra. All within either the ziyarah or within the dua, and likewise within the khutab.
Okay.
When you're looking at the sermons of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the sermons tend to begin with tawheed,
Yes. Yes.
make their way to God's justice, then to the role of prophethood, then to the position of the imam,
Yes.
and then that reconnects that if we do not get justice in this world, there will be justice when we are resurrected. So the sermons, the salutations, the supplications of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, I think when you're looking at that period where the Ahlul Bayt were not able to necessarily disseminate, as it were, in a particular university called the Imam Ali or the Imam al-Hassan University of, for example, Islamic Sciences, what they decide is that in their sermons, they're going to elucidate on usul al-din and furu' al-din.
Yes.
And in their supplications and in their ziyarah. And there are many great ulama who have looked at the sermons of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and have found aqa'id,
Okay.
key theological beliefs within the sermons. So when a person hears that Zainab alayhi salam is in front of Yazid, they imagine that this is Zainab talking about Karbala and the oppression of Karbala. No. This is going to be us proving and making you all understand what is monotheism.
Yes.
What is justice.
Alhamdulillah.
What is prophethood. What is imamah. What is qiyamah. So you'll always find that this pattern emerges either in the ziyarah or in a dua or in a khutbah.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. With respect to adala, or justice as it's known in English, do you think that the Muslim Ummah has done justice, as it were, to
No.
the name of Zainab? I mean, I
We
have
haven't
few friends.
done.
I have friends from other schools of thought, madhabs, and so on and so forth, and they haven't even heard about her. They haven't even read about her. There's very little spoken about her. Why do you think this is so?
I think many Muslims have been told not to look back at some periods in history. And therefore, when you're told not to look back at those periods, you're not going to be associated with some of the main figures who set a legacy for us from that period. I think there's another group of Muslims who, if you tell them somebody is Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family's granddaughter, they're like, oh, okay, I love her. Okay, you love her, why?
Yeah.
Because she's his granddaughter? Well, Abu Lahab's his uncle, and God said, forget about that relationship.
Exactly.
Stop loving people because of association. Love them because of merit. We are a religion that admires people because they are wife of, daughter of, husband of, father-in-law of, son-in-law of. Instead of just admiring because the surname happens to be the Prophet Muhammad's granddaughter or Ali and Fatima's daughter, actually ask yourself a question. What have I understood of the legacy of the 56, 57 years that this lady lives? There are Muslims around the world, I personally believe, who are still not sure if Hassan and Hussein are the grandsons of the Prophet. Are they the nephews? There are people who literally have been given as little education as that.
Yeah, sure.
There are others If you tell them, do you know who Zainab is? You'll find them saying, I heard the Prophet Muhammad has a daughter called Zainab.
Yes.
And it's sad that because so many were taught not to speak about Karbala, not to discuss Karbala.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, for years, Karbala and Ashura was associated with the Shia. When in reality, it's for every Muslim.
Of course.
It shouldn't just belong to the Shia. Yes, the Shia emphasize what happened at Karbala. But when you're going to learn about Imam Hussein and Zainab, whether you're Shia or not Shia, what negative impact can that have on your children? Why do people hide who Zainab was?
Yes.
If Zainab embodies dignity, embodies patience, embodies God consciousness, embodies discipline in the face of hardship and tribulation, then why not tell the people about this?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why so many Muslims in the world today, they will never know about Kufa and Shaam.
No.
They may know, for example, about Karbala, and that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was martyred in Karbala, but you tell them what happened after Karbala, and they are astonished. Mind you, that whole period, 50 years after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon his family, dies, I think that period, and then the next 100 years after that, many Muslims haven't got a clue what's going on.
Yes, yes.
You know, Imam al-Hussein's death, all the way up until the end of the Umayyad Caliphate, I think Muslims haven't got a clue what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there is a need for us to reassess. Now, somebody can argue that, firstly, what difference does it make? I've got the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon his family. I've got his sunnah.
Yeah.
The Quran says whatever he gives you, take it. Whatever he prohibits you from, leave it.
And therefore that's enough.
That's enough. Well, it doesn't seem to be enough for the early community, because they seem to be uncertain where haqq is and where batil is.
Yeah.
Either then the Prophet is at fault, astaghfirullah,
Yes.
or then something happened after the Prophet, peace be upon his family, died, that led to a situation where people who've just prayed salah were very happy to slap his granddaughter. Surely then a person has to reassess the path of Islam that's reached me. Is that a path which has been adulterated or no?
Yes, quite right.
See, milk can reach your fridge, but there could be milk which is adulterated.
That's right.
And there's milk which is not.
Yes.
Water can be something you drink. There's a difference between water which is pure from the best of places to water where you know that, well, I'm thirsty, I'm going to have a drink, but I'm not going to drink from there every day.
No, no.
And so people like Zainab alayhi salam save Islam. When I say save Islam, yes, Islam continued after Zainab, but they saved the original version of Islam.
SubhanAllah.
There were many copy pirate DVDs available of Islam.
Yes, forms of dilution.
Many.
Yeah.
However, what Zainab does, alayhi salam, is she shows that what my brother did at Karbala, I'm going to continue and ensure everybody knows the real Islam of our grandfather.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So you've touched on the point of the lack of her recognition amongst various schools of thought, as it were, madhabs. Now let's look at the actual sermon itself, as it were. Is it in the literature of these other schools of thought? And
yes, one of the earliest pieces of literature which narrates this sermon, because you've got a good point, that if it's narrated by Kulayni or Mufid or Murtada or Ibn Tawus or, you know, Hilli or, you know, Hurr al-Amili, then somebody will straight away say, well, okay, that's in your Shi'i literature. But Ibn Tayfur, for example, Ibn Tayfur lived from 208 after Hijrah, so 150 years after this khutbah. Not a great amount of years.
No,
it's not a great number of years.
No.
Ibn Tayfur lived 208 after Hijrah, died about 280 after Hijrah. He was specialist in different fields, in the languages, in different parts of history as well. And he had a work called Balaghat al-Nisa.
Okay.
Balaghat al-Nisa, and it's interesting, we're talking about sermons here, you'd associate sermons with eloquence.
Yes.
The word balagha here is mentioned.
Yes.
Eloquence, of different women in Islamic history. And you find that he provides us with that whole sermon.
Okay.
So it's not just narrated in Shia literature, but even those who are non-Shia have narrated what Zainab said to Yazid.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Now, with regards to Sayyidah Zainab, the daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and her mother, as we all know, Sayyidah Fatima Zahra alayha salam. Where did she actually
I think you answered the question. Where did she learn how to give such profound sermon? You answered it.
Yeah.
You said Zainab, daughter of Ali. Zainab, daughter of Fatima.
Yes.
Do you have better teachers than Ali and Fatima? No. Firstly, with Imam Ali alayhi salam, his sermons remain the most profound.
Even to this day.
There's something unique about the Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam, and that is non-Muslims love talking about them. There are many in that early Islamic period who are not from the Ahl al-Bayt, who no one really cares about today except Muslims. You're not going to have a Christian write about how great they were.
No.
Whereas when you come to Ali, or you come to Hussain, or you come to even Father Clohessy writing on Fatima, people have an interest in seeing whether there's similarities that can be taken with figures of other religions. And with Imam Ali alayhi salam, non-Muslims are enamored when they read about Imam Ali. And especially the sermons of Imam Ali, because there's something unique about the sermons of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam, as we know, originated Arabic grammar.
Yeah.
When people talk about Abu al-Aswad al-Du'ali, he's a servant of Ali when it comes to grammar. No one comes near Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam in Arabic grammar, and the origin of grammar, and the eloquence and the usage of words, so wonderfully shown by Sharif al-Radi in his famous work known as Nahj al-Balagha. Now, we mentioned that Ibn Tayfur's work was called Balaghat al-Nisa,
the eloquence of women.
Eloquence of women. And now you have the father has got a whole work written about his sermons called Nahj al-Balagha. Of course, Nahj al-Balagha is not Imam Ali alayhi salam's book.
No.
It's the book compiled by Sharif al-Radi, one of our profound great scholars, Sharif al-Radi and Sharif al-Murtada. May Allah bless their souls. These are two unbelievable personalities. And they say that they were from the prayer of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. The famous story about how al-Mufid supposedly sees Fatima Zahra saying, "Teach my sons Hassan and Hussein."
Yes.
And Shaykh al-Mufid is wondering, hold on, who can teach Hassan and Hussein? When the door knocks, when he wakes up, there's a lady with her two sons saying, can you teach them? And Mufid realizes that this two are from the prayers of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam. Sharif al-Murtada, when it comes to our theology, is second to none. He is an outstanding figure, and his legacy left behind in theology, even in jurisprudence, he's an icon in Shi'i scholastic tradition. And Sharif al-Radi, people, both Shia and non-Shia, revere the greatness of Sharif al-Radi when it comes to the Arabic language, when it comes to the literature that's left behind. And he compiles the sermons of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Now, Nahj al-Balagha is not the Quran. There may be some sermons which are open to question, but on the whole, you have many of Imam Ali alayhi salam's great sermons. And even outside of Nahj al-Balagha, there have been books which have been written about Imam Ali's sermons which are not mentioned in Nahj al-Balagha.
True.
And you also have, incidents where Imam Ali's sermons are so unique that he does things which nobody else has been able to. And listen, if the Prophet says, I'm the city of knowledge, and that person is the gate, then he's something else. And I remember when that person who came up to him and said to him, can you give a whole sermon without having any letter which has dots on it,
yes,
below it, and so on, in the sermon? Now, that's like you saying to me Said, Ammar, are you able to give a whole lecture without a word having a vowel?
Yeah.
I'll be like, listen, buddy, it's impossible. And Imam Ali alayhi salam is able to give a whole khutbah. Now, you know, in the Arabic language, how many letters have dots? Usually ba and ta and tha and kha and jim,
Yes.
ghain and wad and so. And here you have Imam Ali alayhi salam giving this whole sermon. People ask me, where did Zainab learn eloquence? She drank from the fountain of Ali. And then somebody else came, okay, you were able to give that sermon, give us a sermon, a whole sermon, but without any word having the letter alif. And I can't even imagine giving a lecture in Arabic without me needing alif throughout the lecture. You know, whether it's alif at the beginning or alif in the middle or alif in the end, I'm always going to need it. And Imam Ali is able to do this. Now we know very well, when I'm saying Imam Ali alayhi salam is able to do this, Imam Ali alayhi salam is one who, you know, who receives the divine names in their truest form. Imam Ali alayhi salam is the one who's aided by Ruh al-Quds.
Yes.
You know, Imam Ali alayhi salam is somebody who receives knowledge in the form of ilham and the form of kasb. So, you know, I'm no one to describe Imam Ali's knowledge, but what we certainly have is that Imam Ali alayhi salam, when it comes to khutab, Nahj al-Balagha shows us some of the most profound sermons. And what's also interesting is that these sermons in Nahj al-Balagha, sometimes he gives them in his most difficult times.
Right.
Good times, poignant moments, sensitive moments. And I think that's something to bear in mind about Zainab alayhi salam as well. It's one thing giving a lecture.
Yes.
It's another giving it in a very sensitive time.
Absolutely.
If you look at Nahj al-Balagha, there are lectures, Jamal, Safin,
Yes.
Right before battles, or even sometimes he may reprimand his governor called Uthman or his companion Kumail, or he may, you know, so there's all these difficult, sensitive moments as well. So what you've got with Imam Ali alayhi salam, then his wife Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, and that khutbah.
Yes, I mean, if I can add, Sayyidina, you can't even make it up.
Yes.
That, just from observance, you can't even make it up. I mean, to deliver or execute a sermon or a khutbah without an alif or a dot, as it were. You can't make it up.
Well, I think
it's got to be miraculous.
The only thing that baffles you at that moment is a nation that made Ali number 4.
Yeah.
I think any other nation would have made him number 1.
Yes.
And so with Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, Zainab alayhi salam, when her mother gives that khutbah, Zainab is about 5-6 years of age.
Right.
So Zainab not only lives with her father till the day he passes away, but at a young age sees her mother stand up to the oppressors of her time, who have usurped not only the leadership, God's divine covenant on earth, but usurp the land of Fadak. And Zainab sees her mother go through thick and thin to speak in what is one of the most profound sermons ever given. I always say to people out there, sit and look line by line at the khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra. That khutbah of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, known as al-khutbah al-Fadakiyya.
Yes.
So when you're asking me, where does Zainab see this? But let's not forget, her elder brothers have a major role as well.
Yes, of course.
You know, many people neglect the greatness of the eloquence of Imam al-Hussein, Imam al-Hussein. And she used to look up to them. And, you know, you're looking up to these brothers and you could see that these brothers, Imam al-Hussein on the 10th of Muharram has some unbelievable sermons. And it's just a shame you hardly hear majalis on those sermons. But there's some phenomenal sermons on Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So all in all, and then there's a final line I must mention.
Bismillah.
All of these have a major role.
Right.
But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can also inspire you when you are taking steps to obeying Him.
Okay.
Imam Zain al-Abidin in his ziyarah of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam says, verily my auntie, you are learned without having been taught. Now when we are therefore saying that Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam of course looks up to Imam Ali alayhi salam, Fatima Zahra, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, but Allah can also inspire. As in the Quran, Allah inspired Moses' mother.
Yeah.
When Allah used the word wahi with Moses' mother, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَىٰ أَنْ أَرْضَعِيهِ فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ, and so on. So if Moses' mother is not a prophet, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we inspired her. Likewise, if she is somebody, as Imam Zainab says, my auntie, you are learned without her being taught. You are of understanding without somebody explaining. Don't put Zainab on the same level as others.
Yes.
You know, Zainab, now somebody did once ask me, if Zainab is that great, why is she not one of the ma'soomeen? Now that's God's decision.
Yeah.
I will never know the reason. She's honored to be alongside the ma'soomeen. Luqman received the whole surah of the Quran named after him, and he was only an advisor to Nabi Dawood alayhi salam. But a whole surah was named after him. Allah loves the people of hikmah.
Yes.
The people of wisdom.
Alhamdulillah.
And no doubt wisdom with that sermon was in overflow mode with her.
Subhanallah. Now you've spoken about how Imam Zain al-Abidin al-Islam spoke about his aunt, Sayyidah Zainab, being taught without having a teacher, as it were. Now let's take that subtopic, as it were. What lessons for females are there in our community looking to be speakers, mulyanis, mushtahadas, zakiras, etc., from these teachings, as it were, from lessons from Sayyidah Zainab? How can we be inspired specifically for, women?
Yeah, I think there were many great women out there who were inspired by Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam in the early days of Islam and were inspired by what she did. And I think that likewise our daughters, our sisters today should be inspired first and foremost to be able to stand up against the arrogance of the men who lead their communities, sometimes who use culture or use religion as an excuse for their cultural beliefs. To stand up also against, the arrogant males who sometimes may exist in political leadership, who are very condescending towards, the females in their country. There are some countries in the world today where the leaders of the countries will call the woman, the woman of that country all sorts of names. And so that's on the second level. On third level, look, gaining knowledge is obligatory on every Muslim male and female. I'm not going to look at your gender if you're going to give a lecture.
Quite right.
Recently I heard, we had participated in events at the University of Cambridge. And there were a few ladies who had given presentations, and I was inspired by their presentations. Some talked about how Fatima al-Zahra inspired them. Others were inspired also by Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. Now, you could be a zakira in the community, or dhakira, somebody who just recites the masa'ib of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam with some pieces of advice. You can go towards being an alima, somebody who actually has acquired qualifications. And you could become, like some became, like Nusrat Amin and others, they went on to become mujtahidas.
Right.
So all of these should take inspiration from Zainab alayhi salam.
Right, okay. So now, with regards to the actual great sermon, the sermon of sermons, what's the context leading up to the sermon and the events, as it were? So Karbala's taken place.
Yeah.
The tragic events have unfolded. The Shuhada obviously are martyred. The holy ladies, Imam Zain al-Abidin al-Islam and many other members of the household of the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam are now paraded. But now they reach Shaam. What's the actual context behind this sermon now?
Yazid is trying every way possible to humiliate the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. He's invited ambassadors of non-Muslim backgrounds to sit alongside him. The monkeys are playing everywhere. Alcohol served everywhere. He even tells some of his ambassadors or even some of the envoys who have come to the party that if any of these girls in chains look good to you, then take them. So he's now showing that Islam as a religion is virtually dead. And he proves that he has no belief in Islam by using the poetry of a poet from the Jahiliyyah period,
right,
called Abdullah ibn Zaba'ra.
Right.
Abdullah ibn Zaba'ra had written poetry in the Jahili period, and Yazid played on his poetry by saying لعبت هاشم بالملك. He starts off later أشياخي ببدر شهدوا جزع الخزرج من وقع الأسل لأهلوا واستهلوا فرحا ثم قالوا يا يزيد لا تشل لعبت هاشم بالملك فلا خبر جاء ولا وحي نزل. What does Yazid say?
Okay.
Yazid says, I wish my ancestors from Badr were present here today. Now, his ancestors from Badr were Muslims or Kafir? His, Yazid's ancestors. What were they?
Kafir.
Kafir. Could you give me an example of one of his ancestors? Yazid, grandson of who? Who would one of his ancestors be? Enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Sufyan.
Grandfather.
Yeah, Abu Sufyan's his grandfather.
The whole lineage is corrupt.
So Yazid now has made a huge statement, which Imam Hussein alayhi salam warned the Muslim Ummah 6 months earlier.
Right, right.
Remember, this is the week when Imam Hussein left Medina
In
to
Rajab.
go, yes, in Rajab.
That's
this
right.
week. It's only in a couple of days that Imam Hussein left Medina to go towards Mecca, to go towards Kufa and Karbala.
Yes.
Now, Imam Hussein warned them. A man like this doesn't believe. You see, when people keep telling me, why do you guys care so much about Imam Hussein? Why this Ashura? Why this Karbala? Why all of this? I care because if it wasn't for Imam Hussein alayhi salam waking all of us up, there wouldn't be the beauty of the spiritual, ethical message of the Prophet, peace be upon him, reach us today. Yazid is saying that I wish Abu Sufyan was here. I wish Utbah bin Rabi'a was here. Hind, Yazid's grandma, her dad, Utbah bin Rabi'a, was killed at Badr.
Right.
Walid, Shayba, his uncle, all were killed. When Yazid therefore took at Zainab, he knows Zainab's granddad defeated mine at Badr. And by the way, it's not a feud.
No.
Granddad v granddad.
No.
There's a difference between morality and the most immoral, ignorant people. So he begins this by staring down Zainab and saying to her, Layta ashyakhi bi Badrin shahidu. I wish my ancestors from Badr were here to look at what I'm doing. Because he was playing with the lips of Imam al-Hussein. He was poking the lips of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and he was poking the eyes of Imam al-Hussein. And that's why I always say Zainab's sermon's a miracle. How she maintains eloquence, having seen her brother and seeing her beloved with their heads on spears being paraded. And when he says this, he then concludes his poetry by saying, لعبت هاشم بالملك. Hashim, Bani Hashim, your family Zainab, they just played with kingdom. There's no revelation. This Jibreel stuff is all nonsense. Now you tell me, the core tenets of Islam are to believe in God, His angels, and the prophets. Now, when you've just denied all of them,
what do you have left?
So he sits back and he's just laughing at her. Zainab begins. Everyone thinks, surely she can't say anything. This is Yazid. And when she does begin, you are rejecting my grandfather's message. You're rejecting his prophethood. You're rejecting God's communications. She begins with the first line. All praise is due to Allah, Master of all the worlds. And peace and blessings be on his prophet. Then she quotes the Quran. Evil will be the end for those who committed evil. Because they rejected our communications and used to mock them.
Straight up in the khutbah.
Straight away in the Quran.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of the Quran in Zainab's khutbah.
Right.
That Zainab wants to highlight, the Quran provides us with guidance. We are the family of the Quran. And I'm going to quote the Quran. Okay,
now with regards to quoting the Holy Quran, as it were, obviously it's fundamental to Ahlul Bayt al-Islam and Islam. But how many ayahs does she actually quote And what does this actually tell us? Because, you
Yeah.
see, I find, and I'm sure you will find, that these are all messages also for us to learn from. And it wouldn't be a fluke, as it were, or by coincidence or chance, that she or any other members of the Holy Ahlul Bayt of Islam would randomly recite verses from the Quran. It would be exactly at the right time for a particular reason. So what were the sort of main ayahs perhaps that she would have
She quotes, in my memory, she quotes 4 verses of the Holy Quran.
Right.
And each one of them is at a particular juncture expressing or validating or confirming a point.
Okay.
So the first one she quotes, evil will be the end for those who committed evil, because they rejected our communications and used to mock them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that those of you who commit evil, your end will be evil.
Yes.
Because you rejected our communications. This is very important.
Okay.
You rejected our communication, but then mocked it. You see, Hindus out there may reject Islam, but don't mock. Sikhs may reject Islam, but they don't mock Islam.
Yes.
Christians, Jews out there may reject Islam, but they don't mock. And in our belief, God's mercy is open to all those who may reject, but don't mock. They live with you civilly.
True, very true.
There's a difference between somebody who rejects Islam and somebody who blatantly mocks the word of God and mocks the religion of Islam. And that is what Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam uses this verse to say, you know, somebody like you, the problem isn't that you've just denied the religion, you've now made fun of God's word. Because somebody once asked me, they said to me, said, Ammar, does God love all his creation? So I was like, yes. All of them? So I was like, yes. He goes, so God must love Yazid. I said, the difference was shown by Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. Everybody receives God's love until they begin to mock God. Then they're out of the rahmah.
Yeah, yes.
And so the first verse was this. The second one was interesting.
Okay.
Yazid thinks that he's, you know,
Invincible.
Invincible. Oh, Yazid, do you think that God has made you honorable, made us contemptible? Now that in your belief you've blocked the earth's zones and the heavens' horizons, and you've left no solution for us, you crow with pleasure now that the world has turned for you. Our government is arranged to you, and our affairs are allocated to you. Get off your high horse. Have you not read in the Quran when Allah says, let not those who disbelieve think that us giving them a long life is good for their souls. Rather, we give them long life so they may add more sins. And for them there is a painful chastisement. Because sometimes people say, I've seen evil people live till their 80s.
Yes.
I've seen good people die in their 40s or in their 30s or in their 20s. The beauty about this ayah of the Quran is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and Sayyidina Zainab tells him that, look, those who disbelieve sometimes think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks they've done nothing wrong. Live, continue living, enjoy. No, keep living and keep adding to those sins.
Yes, yes.
You want to enjoy these 60, 70, 80 years? Enjoy them.
Okay, so
come and visit me soon.
We're just going to go for a break. Viewers, do join us again in the next moment or two, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Excuses do we have? Look at Zainab and the situation she had, and she gave everything. We're in comfort and happiness and security. We don't even want to give a small sacrifice in the way of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is for Zainab. Zainab al-Kubra alayhi salam. This is for a smile upon her broken face. This lady, Aqilatul Bani Hashim, you know, look at the family of Bani Hashim. They inherited knowledge and eloquence, yet only one lady was known as Aqilatul Bani Hashim. Only one lady has the virtue of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam looking at her as she gives that fiery sermon in Kufa, unafraid, fearless. And he turns to her and he says, my auntie Zainab, you are, praise be to Allah, the learned lady who was never taught, and the lady who has understanding who was not made to understand. This is the lady that you are pledging your allegiance to tonight, my brothers and sisters.
bismillahirrahmanirrahim. سلام دارم خدمت همه شما بینندگان خوب شبکه جهانی امام حسین علیه السلام. در حرم بیبی حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها هستیم و حاضریم و دعاگو را به زیارت تک تک شما عزیزانیم. این پرچم همون پرچمیه که در استدیوی بین الحرمین باز شد، همون پرچمیه که شما عزیزان در برنامه منم مشترکم سهیم شدید و اسامیتون رو روی این پرچم نوشتیم. آوردیم با خودمون سوریه، با خودمون آوردیم پیش بیبی حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها و انشالله بعد از حرم حضرت زینب میریم حرم حضرت رقیه سلام الله علیها. این پرچم باز میکنم و به نیابت از شما ما اینجا زیارت میکنیم و به نیابت از تک تک شما انشالله دعا میکنیم و حاجت روا باشید. به نیابت از شما میرم ذریح بیبی حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها رو بوس میکنم و دعاتون میکنم و انشالله تمام پرچم ها رو متبرک کنم.
بعد عزها سليمة، بعد عزها سليمة سليمة. كربلاء وصلت بربعين حسين زينب، جت لمت عنيا تصيح وتنادي بالعقيل اختك تريت سوت الدنيا.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our live show tonight, the Sermon of Sermons, Zainab in Shaam. I'd like to thank all our viewers all around the world who are watching tonight. Once again, we're reaching good audience figures, and I'd also like for you to generate generously. Our telephone number is 0203 515 0199 to ask questions to Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshwani. You can also WhatsApp your questions 07939 917 163. Dr. Sayyid Ammar, assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Just prior to the break, you were giving absolutely an amazing breakdown, as it were, of the particular verses that Sayyidah Zainab was reciting, as it were, in front of Yazid. You've mentioned two verses. If I can ask, what additional verses were there?
Then after those first two, so the first one was evil will be the end for those who committed evil.
Yes.
Because they rejected our communications, used to mock them. The second one was, let not those who disbelieve think that our granting them respite is good for their souls. Rather, we grant them respite so they may add to their sins.
Okay.
And for them there is a painful chastisement. The third, do not count those who have died in the way of Allah, O Yazid, as being dead. Rather, they are alive, receiving rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know the famous ayah, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. So that third ayah was a fundamental verse, because she was making clear that those who died at Karbala are still alive. Their physical bodies have died.
Yes.
Their message will never die.
Right.
Their souls will continue to inspire many, and have inspired many. And the fourth one was la'na on the oppressor.
Okay.
When she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the famous line, أَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, where she made it clear that, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, withdraw your mercy from the oppressive nation. And I think you therefore find that the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, whether it's Imam Ali, Fatima Zahra, Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, Quran is fundamental for them. You know, I'll be the first to say that, you know, I haven't given the Quran at the time that the Quran deserves. There are many within the religion of Islam who have neglected the Quran to just being something that looks decorative on a bookshelf at home, rather than performing tadabbur.
Right.
And tadabbur meaning sitting back and reflecting on some of the verses. Nobody's asking you to memorize the whole Quran. If you can't, then at least reflect. There are many verses which are repeated. Allah's made it easy to remember.
True.
And even if you can't memorize, then at least sit back and look at some of the messages which you can begin to implement in your daily life.
The essence of fiqh, as it were. Yeah.
And her dad said it before he died. Imam Ali alayhi salam in his will said that, hold on to the Quran, fear Allah and relation to the Quran. You know, and so that was the central, what I would call the base of her khutbah,
Right.
was her beauty in just quoting verses throughout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, after the narration, as it were, of these verses, or during that time, she calls Yazid the son of Tulaqa. Who are the Tulaqa?
It's interesting that she says, "Amin al-adli ibn al-tulaqa." Now we know that when divorce happens in Islam, person referred to, you know, you say that talaq has
Yes,
been done.
yes.
You're telling me there's a phone call.
There's a, say now we have a phone call.
Sure, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, alaikum salam. Yes, brother. Your question, please.
Brother, my name is Nadim, and I'm speaking from Vancouver, Canada.
Okay.
Firstly, I would like to express my love to Sayyid Ammar Nakshwani. I really love this man so much.
God bless you. Thanks, Sayyid Nadim. Thank you.
I think Professor doesn't know me, but I'm usually that guy who's waiting outside of the Imam Barazah to give him a big, big hug.
Oh, you're that guy. Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
But okay, apparently I have some questions. Firstly, when will Sayyid be coming to Vancouver, Canada? Because our eyes are yearning to see him. Number two is I'm actually studying in Hausa, and I have a hadith in Bukhari regarding the day of Raziyat Yom al-Khamis, the calamity of Thursday, the incident of the paper and pen. My question is, if the incident took place on a Thursday and the Prophet died on a Monday, there's a 3 days gap in between. If what the Prophet had to write was so important, why didn't he not ask for it during those 3 days? That is my question. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum assalam. Vancouver has a wonderful community.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them.
Great climate.
They've always been very kind to me. A very active community.
Okay.
And inshallah, you know, in the near future sometime, hopefully I'll be looking to go there.
Inshallah.
If not there, then maybe hiding in Whistler somewhere in a ski resort with no one knowing that I'm there.
Yeah.
But in terms of a bit out of the topic, but
Yeah.
in terms of calamity of Thursday, the Prophet had already made the announcement on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about Imam Ali's leadership on the day of Ghadir.
Ghadir.
And here he is sitting with close companions, in his final moments, telling them, give me a pen and paper. Now, the moment the Prophet says to you, give me the tissue box, give me a glass, give me a pen, if the Prophet says that to you, would you turn around and say, no?
Never.
No, they ask me, I'll give it to them straight away.
Exactly.
And I think, sadly, what happened, I think Ibn Abbas gets quite emotional when he talks about this, that, you know, Thursday, what a Thursday. You know, the Prophet asks for a pen and paper and someone calls him delirious. And I think at that point you realized, and sadly everyone realized, that there was great envy that was in the Muslim community, which I don't think many can deny. I think they even speak of a spat, which they've always used to justify Man Kuntu Mawla. They speak of a spat between Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib and people like Khalid, and I think this was exasperated. I can't imagine Khalid and Mughira bin Shu'bah and others having any love for Ali. And they, especially Mughira and those who come later on, show their true colors in terms of their hatred.
Okay.
So you want to take from the Prophet, peace be upon his family, you take. And I think it was shown there's a difference between those who wholeheartedly believe in his prophethood and those who probably never ever did. Yeah.
Okay. So, just going back to the Sayyidah Zainab calls Yazid the son of Tulaqa.
Yeah, talaqa, we mentioned talaq. It's normally translated as divorce.
Right, yes.
Divorce because now you're freed from something, freed from the shackles of something. Tulaqa are those personalities who were freed on the day of the opening of Mecca.
Right.
So when the conquest of Mecca happened, there were certain personalities who on that day were restless, thinking we've heard this religion so much, what's going to happen to us? And some of these converted to the religion of Islam, converted with my fingers flicking like this and maybe till the day I die. And these people, you know, the Prophet himself said, go away, O Tulaqa. You guys are freed on this day. Now, of course, they controlled the media, you know, 40 odd years later, so they could always show that they converted earlier. But many supposedly joined the religion on the day of the opening of Mecca. Sayyidah Zainab wants to make clear to Yazid, O Yazid, O you whose father was of the Tulaqa, freed by my grandfather. Now the Tulaqa, there's an interesting question in theology.
Okay.
Can the Tulaqa become khulafa?
Okay.
You see, if a person becomes Khalifa, say that person has participated in Badr or in Uhud, or that person is a Muhajiri or an Ansari, okay. They may have a right to become a Khalifa. You look at Saqifa, one group said we are the Ansar, another group said we are the Muhajirun, we have a greater right. Nobody said I'm of the Tulaqa.
Okay.
Muawiyah never uses that.
Right.
If it's something to be proud of, then Muawiyah would say that I'm one of the Tulaqa, but he doesn't use it. Wasn't a term of any
admiration,
veneration or reverence at all.
Embarrassment.
Embarrassment.
Shame.
أَمِنَ الْعَدْلِ يَبْنَ الطُّلَقَاءِ. Is it fair, O you whose father was freed by my grandfather, that you place your wives and your slaves behind the curtain of the veil, while the daughters of Rasulullah are taken from city to city with no one to protect them?
Yes. Now, with regards to the veil, Sayyidina, the hijab, as it were, is incredibly important to Sayyidah Zainab. Where does she actually mention this? And we've got many sisters and women who love Sayyidah Zainab, attend majalis for her in Muharram, Safar, but just will not wear it. And I don't mean that in a sexist way, because obviously I'm a man and you're a man, and that, you know, well, it's easy for us, you know. But there seems to be a form that many sisters or many women are adamant that they won't wear it. What advice would you give to them?
Well, I don't know everybody's personal situation.
Yeah.
All I know is that Sayyidah Zainab talks of, there's, you know,
Because she puts a lot of emphasis on this.
Yeah, let's make clear that there's no mention of the word hijab in this period as the way hijab is understood today.
Okay.
You know, students of usul al-fiqh will talk of wad' and the development of the coin of the of the coinage of a particular definition of a term. You know, salah originally means dua. Now salah means what we pray 5 times a day, for example. Zakat originally means to purify. Now it means charity. And I think likewise, hijab has undertaken an evolution. I think what Sayyidah Zainab in her khutbah, she mentions the wajh and she mentions sitr. Sitr for her is the sanctity of the chastity of the female in Islam. And she says to Yazid, is it fair that you disgrace us by unveiling our faces so that everybody can now see us, from the stranger to the acquaintance, from the noble to the ignoble, while there is none to defend us? And so what's happened at Karbala is these ladies, it seems that when she's saying that you've disgraced us by unveiling our faces, they used to cover their faces, and now this has been ripped off.
Right.
So clearly that was something fundamental to that worldview of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, that the moral worldview would include that a person covers themselves, especially the females within the religion of Islam, and also previous to the religion of Islam, you'll find that there are other religious books that mention that even in Christianity and Judaism there was a covering of the head that was there. And we always associate Zainab alayhi salam as the one who taught us how to continue to wear the veil in the face of hardship. There are many sisters out there today who may not necessarily wear the veil, maybe because of Islamophobia, they may be scared. Although some of the bravest people in our communities are the ladies of the communities.
Yes.
But some may be scared where they're living, so they may take off their hijab. Still not an excuse, however, that may be their reason. Others, because marriage-wise, they feel that there could be more proposals if their hair is showing rather than their hair is not showing. Others, maybe a bad incident or relationship led them to just hating anybody who was associated, or maybe even took it out on the religion. And for others, maybe they believe that there isn't any proof. If you ask them what their profession is, they may not necessarily be experts in Islamic law or exegesis, but I suppose everybody is an expert in Islam when they want to be.
Yeah.
So each person has their own interpretation. Ultimately, when we're looking at the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, they're pretty clear.
True.
That in Salah there is an obligatoriness for the wearing of the veil. There is an expectation of the wearing of the veil in one's public life, private except for those who are related. And so you have it's there within Islamic legal text. I'm not going to say the evolution of hijab has been explained in the best of ways. I don't think it has been explained in the best of ways. I do believe that there's a lot of adaptability in terms of how one wears hijab in different places, different times. Makan and zaman, I think, play a major role. I think there's an expectation if you live in Najaf or Qom to look like a particular way. And they may look down sometimes at people who live in London or in North America as not wearing the veil they should be, when in reality, the ones who are living in the West are the ones who truly are fighting a struggle to maintain it and are observing it in the best of ways.
Yes.
Now, does a long jacket and jeans count as the veil? Some in the Middle East may not see it as that. Others may see it as that. I think there is scope for adaptability. Even within Islamic legal literature, I don't think there's one look of what is jilbab, burqa, niqab, hijab, sitr. I think all these terms evolved in different periods.
Right, okay. The producers are prompting me to read out a few questions. So, with that in mind, Assalamu alaikum, my question is, what is the best English resource book or reference one can read about her life and sermons of Sayyidah Zainab, Salaam alayhi salam? And also, the Quran and Islam generally teaches us to respect our fathers and mothers. Yazid's father, Muawiyah, was an oppressor and a tyrant. Was Yazid supposed to fight his father, or should he have been quiet? What happens if one's father is an oppressor? Is it permissible to go against him?
In terms of the first question, best English book on Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, Father Christopher Clow Hesse.
Okay.
His book, Zainab, Half of My Heart. Published by Gorgias Press.
Okay.
In terms of the second question, Islam teaches us to obey our parents. Therefore, how could Yazid speak out against Muawiyah? If you look at the story of Luqman in Surah 31 of the Quran, Luqman tells his son, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. We enjoined upon man to be duteous to the parents. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكْ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. However, if they ask you to go against Allah, don't obey them.
Okay.
The moment your father asks you to go against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you have to reject. You can't say because my dad's not religious.
Right.
And hence you found that with Yazid. Yazid's own son Muawiyah, who he named after his dad, rejected the path of his dad.
Okay.
He said, listen, Dad, you can have your way, I have my way.
Right.
So Yazid had a son called Muawiyah,
Yes.
who rejected his father's way.
Okay. So now we have a phone call. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Alaikum salam. Yes, brother. Your question, please.
Yes, my question is that in the Pakistani and Indian community, it's in the belief that Sayyidah Zainab had lost her hijab to an extent where her hair and her face was showing. I want to confirm this with the professor that is this a Pakistani Indian thing, or was it just her face showed? Because sometimes I'm confused. The Iraqi community tells me something different, and the Pakistani and Indian community tell me something different. So I would really love if the professor answers this. Thank you.
Yeah, there seems to be a difference of opinion. And I think the brother rightly shows that each culture has the different understanding as well.
Yeah, sure.
Generally, from the scholars I've studied under, they say that definitely the face veil was snatched off the daughters of the Prophet, peace be upon his family.
Okay.
But they say that anything that alludes to their hair showing is to be interpreted in a different way. So, for example,
Okay.
in Ziyarat al-Nahiya al-Muqaddasa, Ziyarah, looking at the events of Karbala, there is a line which mentions Nashirat al-Shu'ur, those who let their hairs out. Now, you could let your hair out for sure, but amongst those who are mahram to you. Yes, there is a particular understanding that if I'm in a tent next to my sister-in-law, or my daughter-in-law, or my sister, I can show my hair. So in Ziyarat al-Nahiya, when it says, and they let their hair out, not let their hair out in front of Yazid and others, but rather amongst each other.
Okay.
Or some say that they let their hair out, meaning that they let it out to show their grief amongst each other.
Right.
If you tied your hair in a bun, you were in a happy mood.
Okay.
When you let your hair out, now it's disheveled. Disheveled is a sign of grief.
Yes.
You never go to a funeral and see somebody who's just like, yeah, let me do my hair up properly. No, they'll be disheveled. I think, like I said, the face veil we can all agree on.
Okay.
As for the rest, sometimes you find in poetry, someone says the ladies use their hair to cover their faces. This is poetry. This is not actual facts.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Another couple of quick questions. About the martyrdom of Lady Zainab, peace be upon her. How did she reach back to Shaam is a question, and we might have time to talk about the martyrdom at the end. So that's one point, one question. The other question is, most of the discussions about the life of Sayyidah Zainab, alayhi salam, revolve around her role as sister of Imam Hussein, alayhi salam. Can the Sayyid please tell us some details about Sayyidah Zainab as a wife and mother? Thank you.
Well, I wish we had a lot more details about that area.
Yeah.
What's clear is that as a wife, Abdullah bin Ja'far, her husband, is a wonderful personality. A personality who's very close to the Ahlul Bayt. He is, of course, her first cousin. And he's a big supporter of her going to Karbala, and his sons are his representatives. And as a wife, she doesn't cause him any issue in his life. She loves him, she loves being around him. And a lot of the reports highlight their generosity, highlight his patience in the fact that when they leave Medina to live in Kufa, she moves with her husband and her father to Kufa. So you find that there is a very close relationship between her and Abdullah bin Ja'far al-Tayyar.
Okay. The Holy Lady, Sayyidah Zainab, the granddaughter of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam, she refers to Yazid as coming from a lineage who chewed liver. And so just that on that point, couldn't some say that she shouldn't attack the dead or the family honor? Why was this said, as it were? Because again, it's really about choosing the word, so it's definitely for a particular purpose and a point.
Yeah, I think you answered it. It's firstly not attacking the dead. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of many oppressors, where they are attacked viciously in the stories of the Quran. Nimrod, Fir'aun, the leaders of Thamud and Ad and Hud. God doesn't say, well, these people have died, so let's not talk about them anymore. No, let's actually talk about how oppressive they were. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes into families of prophets to show how evil they were.
Yes.
Nuh's sons, Nuh's wife, Lot's wife, Yaqub's sons. So anyone who's saying that this is not in the manhaj of Islam, the Quran shows that there are family members of prophets who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this person is not of your family. When Nuh saw his son, and when the flood had happened, and he's trying to make room for his son, God says he's not of your family anymore. Now when Sayyidah Zainab points to the fact that, how can I hope for sympathy and compassion from someone who's born from the flesh of martyrs, someone whose grandma chewed the liver of nobles. His grandma was Hind. We the Shia are the only ones who believe in the tyranny and the evil of Hind. There are moments which
Hamza.
And I'm not even talking about just Hamza. I can't believe that people actually accepted that Hind later on became such a good Muslim lady who loved Islam. Now guys, there's a limit to the rubbish we can believe in. You got to understand, when Hind's son becomes Khalifa, and he's got certain narrators I'm not going to mention on television who are narrating hadith after hadith to look after him, you got to understand, Muawiyah gets into power, he's going to look after mummy, but surely you have respect for Hamza not to believe that this lady later on becomes a good Muslim. And look, someone could say, well, Wahshi came to ask forgiveness from the Prophet. Yeah, the Prophet said to him, listen, just go. But they made Hind as to, Hind radiyallahu anha. I'm proud that I have no love for her. And I'm confident I'm going to go to my grave. I'm going to meet my Lord on the Day of Judgment, and I'm going to say to my Lord, I despise Hind. And if my Lord hears me say this, I am confident he will have no issue with this. You go to your Lord and say to him, you admired Hind, you admired her lineage and what they did to the prophetic family. Let's see what happens. Disgusting for people now in the Muslim world to name their daughters Hind. You go around the Muslim world, and look, I know that people say, listen, I'm not naming after her, I'm naming it after like some Egyptian singer or something. But still, you naming your daughter Hind, come on.
Yeah.
Is there no respect for Sayyid al-Shuhada, Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib? how much Ahlul Bayt used to say our uncle was Hamza.
Okay, so now we've just got literally 5 or 6 minutes, so I'm going to read out to you a few points.
Sure.
And I think you should be able to hopefully prioritize what you'd like to take, because we've got such limited time, unfortunately. So the points are in terms of, she also made a reference in terms of those who paved the way for you to dominate. Who does she refer to there? That's the first question.
Can I answer quickly?
Yes, Bismillah.
So Sayyidina Zainab says, those who paved the way for you to dominate over us. Yazid was appointed by Muawiyah. And I think you have to look at who appointed Muawiyah
Yes.
to become governor of Bilad al-Sham. And who appointed that man? Those are the ones who paved the way for Bani Umayyah to dominate and destroy Islam. Yeah.
Now, Yazid actually brought over guests, and she's clearly not scared of Yazid that he might lash out and kill her, but she attacks his lineage and behavior in front of the guests. So which other guests were there, as it were?
There's Roman envoys there.
Ah, okay.
What some refer to as the Byzantines. Maybe a better terminology would be,
He brought them
Rome
over
of
to
the East.
humiliate the members of the Ahlul Bayt.
Yeah, and but she's not scared.
No.
She tells him, "Oh Yazid, although the plight has made me speak to you, I find speaking to you of little value, but scolding you is great. Therefore, I'll continue to scold you." This is Fatima's daughter. She's not worried about Yazid. She saw her mum deal with bigger fish than Yazid.
Yes, okay. She also mentions, "Oh Yazid, however hard you try, you never obliterate our love and memory from the hearts of people." Now this is really, really profound.
Yeah, this is the line. Yazid, you could try as hard as you want.
Yeah.
You've got no visitors to your grave today. Yazid has no grave. Yazid's grave was destroyed by the Abbasids when they came into power. The Abbasids went to all the Umayyads' graves and they destroyed them. The beauty of Islamic history. Islamic history is just full of blood.
Yeah.
And Muslims try and deny that. It's just full of savage Arab, disgusting animals. Thank God we had the Prophet Muhammad and his family. Otherwise, God knows where this would have gone. Anyway, so Yazid's grave was destroyed. You're going to try and obliterate our memory? No one's going to remember you today in the world. How many call out Ya Zainab? How many remember Zainab's wafat, 15th of Rajab? How many remember Zainab's wilada? How many have written books on Zainab? How many have been inspired by Zainab? You'll never be able to obliterate our memory. Yep.
Okay, and she also then continues and then tells him that his ideas or ideology is unstable. What was she talking about this? And also his temporal rule.
Your ideas are unstable and your government is transitory. Yazid lived for 3 years after that sermon. And he died because his monkey, while riding a donkey next to his horse, the rope and the saddle got connected. He fell down, broke his neck, died. Nothing was left of Yazid. I ask you today, who respects Yazid?
Yes.
Did anyone respect Yazid?
Right, so coming on to the point of respect, we've got a person by the name of Zakir Naik who actually praised Yazid and said, "Yazid, may God be pleased with him," which caused outrage in India 2008. What line in the sermon actually proves that, she actually believed that he was a kafir?
One line in the sermon proved Yazid was a kafir,
Yeah.
of many others, but one in particular. How ironic it is that the members of the party of Allah are killed by the members of the party of Shaitan. And if you're a member of Shaitan's party, I think that's enough for you to be a kafir. Yeah.
Exactly, right. Just for the last minute or two, Sayyidina, she thanks God right at the end of that famous sermon. And surely with all the beatings and the killings and the torture, what lessons are there for those going through hardships now to this day?
I think there's many of us, if it wasn't for Karbala, and there's many of us, if it wasn't for Karbala, it wasn't for Kufa, Shaam and Sayyidah Zainab, many of us life would have ended, many of us. I think there would have been more suicides in the Muslim community if it wasn't for the example of Imam Hussein and Sayyidah Zainab at Karbala. Because whatever you've gone through in life will never ever be what Zainab alayhi salam went through.
Okay.
And she remains that role model that, you know what, hang in there. Times are tough, there's trials, there's tribulations. I saw my mom killed in front of me. I saw my dad killed in front of me. I saw my brothers, my sons, my nephews. But at the end I won. When Adhan was recited, Yazid had to give in.
Yes, yes. Last few questions, Zainab. Salam, I have a question, it's a WhatsApp question. How can we use Sayyidah Zainab to live our lives today in terms of everything? We wake up every day, go to work, study, spend time with our family, eat, exercise, etc. How should we balance our time for this dunya and also in pleasing Allah using Sayyidah Zainab?
Who told you work wasn't worship? You know, you're talking that I'm going to work, therefore I'm a person of dunya. There are 70 levels of worship in Islam, and the highest of them is to earn a lawful living. And Zainab alayhi salam, when she had spare time, she would try and teach, disseminate knowledge. If you have a local madrasa in your community on a Saturday or Sunday morning, give back a couple of hours. You know, people used to love listening, sitting next to Sayyidah Zainab, hearing knowledge. Even if you're 18, you can teach a group of 6-year-olds. And if you're 25, 30, a group of 11-year-olds. And if you're 45 and over, maybe a group of 15-year-olds.
Yes.
That is one way. Another way is when you see injustice out there, as we are seeing sadly today, then try and be active to speak out against it.
True.
There is injustice in the Muslim community. There's injustice outside of the Muslim community. And I think that Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam told us that, you know what, you don't need to speak out against injustice every day. There is a particular way to do it. But when you do see injustice, just be there to ensure that the principles of the religion of Islam are not destroyed.
Final 3 points, Sayyidah. So the sermon ends.
Yes.
And then my question is, does Yazid give in? That's the first point. And then thereafter she returns to Medina. She dies a year later. What does she do there? And then finally, her place of burial. I mean, there's a belief of Egypt, Misr, or Shaam. Where is Sayyidah Zainab buried today? And her ziyarah. So just those 3 points, because we're almost out of time, and I'm really trying to consolidate everything.
Sure, Yazid recognizes that her sermon and the sermon of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam have had the same effect that they had on Ibn Ziyad, where, you know, he's in trouble, and Yazid tells that, you know, whatever you want, I'll give you. And she says to him, that's what you've taken from me, you can never give back to me. Then he says to her, what is it that you want? I want to return to Medina via Karbala. Okay. So they return there. And when she returns to Medina, Ammar ibn Sa'ad, Yazid's governor, cannot take how many, you know, lectures Zainab is giving in Medina. You know, she is giving majalis, organizing majalis, a lesson for all of us. And supposedly, you know, barring a couple of people who believed that she was buried in Jannat al-Baqi', the majority believe either Egypt or they believe in Shaam. In terms of Egypt, they say that Muslima or Maslama, the son of Mukhallad, was the governor, and therefore she was able to stay in the Hamra region for about, I would say, 11 months. And then she died. And hence there's the Sayyidah Zainab Mosque in Cairo. In terms of Shaam, they say that there was a slab found over 100 odd years ago, which said that this is the grave of Zainab, daughter of Ali. And there have been many ulama, Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi amongst them, who were believers that that is the grave of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam in Shaam.
Yes.
On her second return, when she was exiled by the governor of Yazid in Medina. And so you find congregants going to Shaam and going to Egypt. Allahu A'lam. You know, at the end of the day, it seems that possibly the one in Egypt is the grave of a descendant of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, possibly Zainab, the daughter of Yahya al-Mutawwaj, and that the one in Shaam is the grave of Zainab alayhi salam. Some said it could be the grave of Zainab al-Sughra, not Zainab al-Kubra. It's open to interpretations. These graves are a means, they are not the ends.
Right.
You know, the ends is to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by remembering their legacy.
And just very finally, last moment or two, how did she die? Was it through grief?
Yeah, seemingly it's a natural death after Karbala. Some have tried to point otherwise. They're vague in terms of what's happened there.
Okay,
yeah.
And very lastly, Zainab, what would you like to say in terms of the reverence of Sayyidah Zainab, as it were, to the audience? Because it's a global audience, to people, Muslims of other madhabs, to sisters, as it were, to people who really don't know about her.
Yeah, we are indebted.
Yes.
We are indebted to Sayyidah Zainab for saving this religion. And irrespective of whether you're Shia or Sunni or any madhab, the granddaughter of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made her granddad proud. And that sermon, when you read it, you'll realize what the true teachings of Islam are.
And I think we have just run out of time. We may have just one or two questions left. Let me just quickly go back to some of the material. You've mentioned some of her profound, as it were, moments from that famous sermon of sermons. Just in terms of her ziyarah. Now, from my understanding, the stronger riwayah is in Shaam. But can we also make dua, as it were, and use her as tawassul, as it were? Again?
Yeah, a person can use any of the saints of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who lived lives of obedience to Allah. The Quran says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu ittaqullaha wabtaghu ilayhi al-wasila. In Surah 5, verse 35.
Yes.
And when you read the dua, say, Ya Allah, in the name of Zainab alayhi salam. And I think that this will have a huge effect on that supplication being answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay. So now we've run out of time. Viewers also, we have run out of time. Inshallah, we will see you again next time. But from Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshwani and myself, Muhammad Ali, see you again. Assalamu alaikum.
قوت در کمر دارم ابوالفضل علم دارم.
The hadith is Sharif Ma'soom Imam al-Sajjad, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given my uncle Abbas a maqam such that on the day of judgment all the shuhada and the siddiqeen will wish they had the maqam of Abul Fadil. And the Imam did not leave an exception for anyone within the kawn. The exception that we know is Ahlul Bayt through Ahkam Aqli.
This is Zainab al-Kubra alayha salam, Zinat Abiha, the adornment of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We're very aware of what the name Zainab means, but we never stop to think. Because look at the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. You have Hassan and Hussain, Sayyidi Shabab al-Ahl al-Jannah, Qamar Bani Hashim Abul Fadl al-Abbas, Kulthum, that staunch defender of wilayat. And yet despite all of their virtues, there is only one adornment of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Zinat Abiha, who walked through the streets of Kufa and Shaam, and she was not intimidated by anyone, because with every step she took, she sent out this message: you thought you'd killed my father Amir al-Mu'mineen in Masjid al-Kufa, but from the ashes of the burnt door of my mother Fatima, I have risen to tell you that you thought you'd killed my family, but no, as long as I am alive, they did not die. I am the adornment of Haydar al-Qurra. I am Zainab al-Kubra, Zinat Abiha. This is the lady you are pledging your allegiance to, and this is the lady who is the pride and joy of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. By your donations, by your sacrifices, you are making her happy.
Keep the barakah coming every Monday and Friday morning.
Morning barakah at 9 a.m. GMT time only on IMAM HUSSEIN TV.
And what excuses do we have? Look at Zainab and the situation she had, and she gave everything. We're in comfort and happiness and security. We don't even want to give a small sacrifice in the way of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is for Zainab al-Kubra alayhi salam. This is for a smile upon her broken face. This lady, Aqilatul Bani Hashim, you know, look at the family of Bani Hashim. They inherited knowledge and eloquence, yet only one lady was known as Aqilatul Bani Hashim. Only one lady has the virtue of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam looking at her as she gives that fiery sermon in Kufa, unafraid, fearless. And he turns to her and he says, my auntie Zainab, you are, praise be to Allah, the learned lady who was never taught, and the lady who has understanding who was not made to understand. This is the lady that you are pledging your allegiance to tonight, my brothers and sisters.
My heart like an orphan's, at your touch it softens, and my love it becomes Hussein. With everything patient, with your love impatient, daily I lament, daily I lament Hussein.
Imam Hussein Media Group, out of respect to its audience, wants to be available anytime, anywhere. Our worldwide viewers, and in particular North America, can watch our channels through Roku TV setup box. To download our Roku app, follow these simple steps. Go onto the menu and select streaming channels, and then choose the category religious. Then you can find Imam Hussein TV from the list. Now choose add channel and then select OK. Done. Now you can find Imam Hussein TV in your home screen and watch all of our channels online.
And this is a night to change your life, to change your destiny. Maybe you are far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe you think at this moment, maybe my lady Zainab alayhi salam, she's not pleased with me. pleased with what I'm doing. Maybe Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not pleased with the way I'm leading my life at the moment. You can change all of this tonight through this donation, through this pledge, from leaving something in your inheritance. You can change your fate through one deed can tip the scales on the day of judgment, and you are sent to Jannah. Need I remind you of what Jannah is like? One step in Jannah, and no pain, no anger, no sadness, no anguish, no anger is left. It is all a distant memory. Imagine you're sitting there with Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Fatima Zahra, the children of Fatima alayhi salam. They're smiling at you. They're happy to see you because you helped their cause. You kept this message alive.
For raping English girls. Remember? You're here defending the paedophile. I'm here defending your dad. Women are here defending the paedophile. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy. They love us, our food, our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved. www.imamhusseinfree.tv.
bismillahirrahmanirrahim. سلام دارم خدمت همه شما بینندگان خوب شبکه جهانی امام حسین علیه السلام. در حرم بیبی حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها هستیم و حاضریم و دعاگو را به زیاره تک تک شما عزیزانیم. این پرچم همون پرچمیه که در استدیوی الحرمین باز شد، همون پرچمیه که شما عزیزان در برنامه منم مشترکم صحیح و امامی رو روی این پرچم نوشتیم. آوردیم با خودمون سوریه، با خودمون آوردیم پیش زینب سلام الله علیها و انشالله بعد از حرم حضرت زینب میریم حرم حضرت رقیه سلام الله علیها. این پرچم باز میکنم و به نیابت از شما ما اینجا زیارت میکنیم و به نیابت از تک تک شما انشالله دعا میکنیم و حاجت روا باشیم. به نیابت از شما میرم ذریح بیبی حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها رو میکنم و دعاتون میکنم و تمام پرچم ها رو
بعد عزها سليمة بعد عزها سليمة سليمة كربلاء وصلت برد عين حسين زينب جت لمت عنيا تصيح وتنادي بالعقيل اختك تريت سوت الدنيا.
Hussein Media Group is a virtual university that works on a global scale to spread the true message of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt's peace and blessings be upon them. Imam Hussein TV was established 10 years ago in the city of Isfahan, Iran. We work to cover all aspects of religion, Islamic jurisprudence, politics, philosophy, and many more, and aim to bring the public's attention to the righteous Islamic sect, Shia Islam. Our ultimate goal as a media group is to convey the interpretations of the Holy Quran as well as the traditions and knowledge of the Holy Prophet and his progeny, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon them. Our objectives are to protect and safeguard the Shia youth from the destructive impact of immoral ideologies, standing up against injustice by documenting the oppression of Shia across the globe, as well as encouraging peace and unity amongst the Muslims. To reach our aims and serve the Muslim Ummah, we require a budget that would cover all the expenses for our productions, allowing us to work on different projects. Imam Hussein Media Group is a crowd-funded project. We have no sales nor do we charge for our services. We solely rely on monthly payments, financial contributions, donations, religious alms, and generous gifts. The expenses of each production varies depending on the type of project and the style of filming. There are many elements to a production that requires time and capital. The producer must analyze the costs of the venue hire, equipment, transport, feature fees, set design, staff support, and further additional costs. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, narrated, "The best of people is he from whom people benefit." It is up to you to help the Muslim Ummah come together and help guide the youth in remaining on the correct path of Islam. To take part in this global conquest and to spread the message of Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him, please visit www.imamhussein3.tv or give us a call on +44 0203 515 0199. You can also contact us via WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, or even email us on donate@imamhussein.tv. Let's work together hand in hand to elevate the faith of our Shia youth today.